yeah.
All
I
right.
need my coffee.
So, you know, I'll start this off by saying knowledge is not power unless it's applied. So it's truly not power unless it's applied. And that's when it actually becomes powerful, is when you actually apply it. So I'm going to give you a bunch of knowledge today and a bunch of information, but it's your ability to apply these things. So now think of this. When you learn to control the meaning in your life, you truly control your life to some extent. And it's far greater than you do if you don't have the ability to control meaning in your life. So think of it even as a parent, a grandparent, a spouse. I want you to be able to listen today about whether or not you're correctly framing meaning to the people that you have in your lives, in your home. I call it framing, and this is attaching the right meaning to your children for the events that they're going through, your grandchildren, a spouse, but then also in your own life. How good are you attaching meaning? So I believe that this is one of the secret skills. One of the secret skills that happy and successful people both possess. You can become successful and produce a bunch of external results and still not be happy. So in life, we really want both. So that's the ultimate that we see in life, is to truly be fulfilled, to be contributing to other people, to be winning, but truly to be fulfilled in our lives. So think of this. Meaning drives everything. So I want you to write this down if you have a piece of paper. Meaning drives memory. Meaning drives memory. So with meaning driving memory, it drives the story in your life. It's the story that you tell yourself. It's what you live up to. So meaning in life, when an event happens, whether it could be a childhood trauma, a workout that you missed, a fight that you had with somebody that you care about, a failure, a perceived failure, anything in life, meaning drives a memory in your life. And again, meaning drives a story. And what do we do as humans? Is we try to live up and to be consistent with the stories that we tell ourselves. So what I really am trying to talk to you about a little bit today is about learning to frame things so that they actually serve us in our life. So another one to write down is that perspective drives performance and meaning attaches memory. So like I said, for example, if you have a childhood trauma in your life and you're still sort of working through it, but you can't, it's not so much the trauma or the event that took place, the divorce, the abuse. It's the meaning that you drove from that moment. Think of a person with an alcoholic father. And what comes with an alcoholic father is certain events and moments in your life that aren't very pleasant, that aren't very pleasing. And it's not those events that truly define you. It's the meaning you attach to those events, not the event itself. So I really got that. The meaning you attach to those things is going to dictate everything in your life. So in your life, it can lead to perceived worry and pressure. Could be what you're creating with the meaning. So you're worried about an event or something happening because of what you think it will mean to you. Pressure comes from that meaning. So athletes that I coached all the time, many of you know that I coached for decades for softball, baseball, basketball. And one of the things that I do when I start working with these athletes is I listen to them. I want to understand what questions they ask themselves. But I also want to listen. I'm listening very closely, even though they don't know it. and I'm listening for the meanings they attach to different things. What I mean is, if you strike out in a softball game, you might attach the wrong meaning to that strikeout. If you miss the ball, what will that mean? People might make fun of me. I won't get praise. You start running this crazy meaning that elevates pressure through your head. But if you could be in that batter's box and you start asking yourself the question, what will it mean when I hit this ball? That changes your physiology. In fact, sometimes the best things to have happen when you're under pressure is that to actually realize that it's not really going to mean that much one way or the other. And that helps reduce pressure. But in every single case, meaning is truth. It's your truth. And then the last thing that I always look out when I visit with different athletes, when I coach them, mentor them, is their over a year-old meaning. What will this mean in a year? This really drives almost everything. It's the narrative of your life. So if you're a victim, you will find evidence to prove and be consistent with the story that you're a victim. If the world's out to get you, if you always get a bad break, if you never win, if everything always doesn't go your way, whatever that might be, people don't believe me. People don't like me. People don't trust me. People don't think I'm smart. People dismiss me. People don't think I'm attractive. Whatever it might be, you're right. Because meaning drives everything. And so if you want to change your life, you really have to change the ability to frame meaning in your mind. So this reminds me of Tom Brady, who's arguably the greatest football player of all time. Some might believe he's the greatest athlete of all time. He's definitely the greatest quarterback of all time. And he's talking about on stage about his childhood and the framing that his parents did for him around certain events, around practice, around his dreams, and how critical he believes now later in life the framing and meaning that parent gave him. And the biggest thing that he talked about there is that, one, they never told him he couldn't. That was a huge frame. He said he wanted to be a college football player. They said, let's go. They supported him in his dreams. They took him to camps. Whether it was baseball, he got drafted for baseball too. He played for Michigan as well. Tons of hitting in the batting cage. I mean, he actually, at the combine where they determine your statistics and how fast you run, how much you can lift, and they measure you up to go to be drafted. He was one of the slowest 40 times of all time. And his mom still is going, oh, Tom, you do great out there. It's going to be great. They're going to see it. They're going to love you. And he got drafted about the fourth last to the bottom. Barely made a team. But he talks about often that the framing occurred from his parents. That he could do it, that what failure truly meant, and they helped him reframe everything. And that's what we could do in our own lives. Because I've seen it myself with my own dad. My dad was Tom Brady's dad, which was anytime I'm catching in a baseball game, and maybe I didn't hit very well. And after the game, instead of him telling me, oh man, you sucked there and you were terrible, it was, hey, did you see the way that you got around that ball on that bunt? And you threw it to first? Man, the footwork on that was perfect. Wow, the way you got out of there was so quick. You don't usually see that from catchers. Or, hey, did you see that last pitch that you got the strikeout? The way that you caught that perfectly and it made it look like a strike? I saw it. It was off the plate. Or even while I'm hitting, he's back there and he sees it, and he afterwards, even though I hit terribly, he goes, gosh, you know what was most impressive is the pitch you laid off on that ball 4. Because it was close, but it was off the plate. And since you didn't swing at it, you got ball 4. That was great. He helped reframe to me what I was looking at. Because all I was thinking was, man, I struck out. Man, I suck. I'm not any good. And he helped reframe me first to where I'm walking away going, yeah, I did pretty good. Man, I'm not bad. I'm a pretty good player. Which then allowed him then at that point to say, Now, let's get in the batting cage and let's start working on outside pitches and driving those away. He didn't tell me I sucked and that I need to get better. He reframed me and then gave me the ability to improve. That's what we need to do in our own lives. So for most people, they don't always reframe. So what this needs to become is for you to make a habitual and intentional effort about attaching the right meaning in your life. What has this done for me in my life habitually is that I don't have the regression of the ups and down moments in my life that a lot of people do. Because when somebody doesn't attach or learn how to reframe the right meaning to an event, then you are up and down emotionally constantly. Basically, events of your life dictate your life. And for most people, they go, of course they do. It's how everybody lives, don't they? Well, not necessarily. The events of their lives don't dictate their lives. But if you're at the whim of every external thing that's happening, well, if I do well in the gym, if I do well at work today, if I do this, then people will be happy. I'll be happy. But if I don't, I'm going to attach the wrong meaning and be sad or angry, or I'm going to think that I'm a loser. I mean, Mother Teresa, in any event, Mother Teresa said that it was an honor of her life and what she was born to do when she was with somebody as they passed away. She reframed death and tragedy. And the way she framed it, and I believe, was it's the honor of her life to be with a human being as their soul goes to heaven and leaves their body. And so for the exact same event, we could have two different meanings. If I rolled up to a car accident and there's somebody there on the side of the road, God forbid, and they passed away in my arms in a horrific way, and they're like 23 years old, I would say I just witnessed the greatest tragedy in my life. I can't get the visual out of my mind, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm using an extreme example for a reason. You wouldn't say, well, Rob, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just telling you, the exact same event, Mother Teresa would say, I had an honor today. I was with the passing of a soul that went to heaven. And she was so focused on heaven and how blissful it was to get there that she attached a totally different meaning to the event. And of course, I'm using an extreme example here just to illustrate that the emotions in her body during that moment would have been gratitude, faith, prayer, comfort. Emotions in my body might have been completely different. My experience would be different by the meaning. Now again, that's an extreme example, but my point is to illustrate. If you can get good framing and meaning out of things and tell yourself the truth about it, your life is literally going to change. So what you have to do is this. The way you frame meaning is the questions you ask yourself about something. So what do? The first question you ask yourself, what meaning have I attached to this? When something happens in your life, you ask yourself, what meaning am I attaching to this? Whether this is a past event or one that just occurred. Because oftentimes that's unconscious. And we're oblivious to the actual meaning that we attach to it. It's invisible to us. We just go about our lives. So that first question is, what meaning did I attach to this? Second question is, does this meaning serve me? And if the answer is no, here's a powerful question, believe it or not. What would I need to believe about this event so that it would serve me? And then begin to craft that meaning. So the last question you would ask yourself is, what would so-and-so believe about this event if it happened to them? What would Mother Teresa believe? What would another person that you aspire to be like in your life, what would they believe? And then model it. Because sometimes we think so little of ourselves because all the years of attaching the wrong meaning to things, that when we go to ask ourselves, what would I need to believe about this? We can't find the answer. But immediately when we pick somebody that we admire, that we look up to, we immediately find the answer. Isn't that interesting? What would I need to believe? And if that doesn't work, what would so-and-so believe in this event? So again, the biggest message I want you to take from today that motivates you moving forward. Failure is never failure. It's just meaning. So the most powerful thing that you can do at the moment is, what meaning will you attach to your failure or your success? What meaning are you going to attach to it? Because the meaning that you attach to it will dictate the life that you live. As you continue to move forward and say, I have goals, whether it's in the gym, whether it's for your wellness, whether it's in your relationships, whether it's in your aspirations, activities, other. What meaning are you attaching to it when you don't hit the goals that you want? Because too many times that I see it in the gym with the many people that we work with, as soon as that they don't start hitting the goals that they want, then all of a sudden the mind kicks in. And then they start attaching the wrong meaning. Oh, I knew I'd fail again. I knew nothing would work for me. I knew I wasn't disciplined. I knew I wasn't. And they start negatively talking to themselves and assigning a meaning to the failure. It's never failure. It's just not yet. It's just a not yet. So at this point moving forward, take what I'm saying. Anytime that you're feeling down, upset, angry with yourself, identify it. What meaning am I attaching to this? Is that accurate? Oftentimes it's not. Number two, reframe it. Reframe it to why it's actually a good thing. Why it's a positive. Hey, I'm glad that I didn't hit the gym the last 2 weeks because it gave my body a rest, and now I'm ready to get going. Now I can push forward. Hey, I'm glad that I wasn't consistent for 2 weeks because now I'm going to get back in there, and it's going to show that if I'm ever inconsistent in the future, I can get back on it. You have to reframe. And then three, if you're having difficulty reframing and finding the meaning, then what truth needs to happen for this to change? Which means that you might need to look to somebody that you admire and say, what would they do? Okay? All right, team. Motivational Monday today. Thanks for coming on. I will see you in the gym getting your lift on.